Good morning, homesteaders. It's me, John Green. Hope you can see me okay. Look at this. This is today's activity. The other half of the floor. The difference with this half of the floor really is that I am putting foam insulation in, because this will be part of the garage that I'll use. The other half is not insulated because that's just for a wood storage area. That can be insulated later from the bottom. You can sort of see what has to be done, and all of this stuff has to go into that hole. And then these beams, these planks will be put over the top, directly over, making an X, so it's the strongest form. And I'll show you what I'm doing today. Alright, I wanted to dispel some of the myths of how much fun renovating a cottage can be. Because, it is fun, parts of it. The hard part for me is that it's always raining. Some people might dispute that, but it's always raining, and it's hard to get motivated to get outside into the cold and do the work you have to do, even when you need to do it. This particular work today is the least glamorous part of putting the floor in. Don't know if you can see even under here. These nails are still sticking up, these flat nails. A lot of them can just be pushed over. If you sort of check that out. Maybe not that one. Alright, that one can be bent. But I've got to knock them all down with a hammer. A lot of them are going to break off at the point where it touches the wood. And you can see that's already happened in a lot of places along here. What I need to do is go along the whole of these beams, all of these beams, back and forth, Maria Kondo style. That means you start in one corner, work your way across to the other half. Instead of being sporadic and going up and down, you might miss some things. It's not particularly glamorous, you see. This part of doing the work, it's a little bit gross because it's so dusty and dirty, and it's also a little bit dangerous, so not that great. I could still fall through this floor, except I did put a wooden bottom on. It's not likely I would fall through. I'd probably put my foot through if I was being uncareful or careless. So you can see a breeze actually coming through the floor around the edges there where it's not insulated. Alright, I've got my tools. Look. It's a claw hammer, so you can claw things up if necessary. There's also my crowbar. The crowbar is the same basically as the claw hammer, but with more reach. And also you can just use it to hit things. The other side of the crowbar has just a wedge. You can wedge things off or apart if necessary. But at the moment I'm just going to be using this hammer with a claw on it. I'll do my best. I don't know how long it's going to take. It won't really take too long. But because all you're going to hear is hammering, I think it's best I probably just put on some soothing Irish music while I do this part of it, alright? I'll put it in the time lapse. trying to fit in the frame. Alright, so this part of it is really straightforward. You're just knocking over the rusty nails and they tend to break off straight away. You can even kind of bend them over with your fingers. If there are spikes, like metal spikes sticking up, just hit them down with a hammer. And if you can't tell whether or not there's a metal spike or a bump there that could interfere with laying the floor, every brown spot or spot of rust, just hit that spot with a hammer, just to make sure that there's no little nub sticking up along the beams here, because we're going to put the plastic down next. Sorry, we're going to fill this up with the insulation. I'll film that in a couple minutes. I'm going to fill it up, put the plastic down, put the wooden planks down, and then the floor's done. It's actually pretty easy. This part is just not much fun because, you know, you're sort of down in the dirt with everything. You know, a really good rule of thumb, you have to wear gloves of course, is just to sort of run your hands over the top of the joist, and if it doesn't snag on anything, then you can put your plastic layer down without a problem. I mean, of course, if you feel little bumps, just hit them with a hammer. They won't be an issue. And I mean, those things aren't really nails anymore. They're kind of just little rust deposits. I'm surprised that these beams are still holding up after all these years. I don't know if these beams are really as old as the building. I find it hard to believe that these beams would be 300 years old. But maybe these beams are as old as the front building, so that would still make them 130 years old. So, you know, at the end of the day, when it comes to restoring, keep what you can keep. You know, that's not interfering with things. So, if the outside of the building is just painted white, you know, just keep it that way, or paint the building white as well. You don't have to go changing too many things. You know, if there's a window space somewhere, you can change the window, but I wouldn't go cutting it out and rearranging things. Because with these really, really old buildings, as soon as you start taking one thing away, you start to realize that there's kind of like a house of cards of an old build like this. You know, that each thing is holding the other thing together. And as soon as the roof starts leaking, the structural integrity of the whole building is at stake. Because once it goes through these floorboards, which it had, once it goes through these floorboards, it would then go through and damage the foundation of the building. And there are some cracks and things in the walls. I'm going to patch them up, but they are no doubt caused by moisture and the accumulation of water in certain places around the building. It's really, really important that you keep everything as dry as possible. Of course, in other countries it might not be a concern, like Spain, you know, like warmer climates might not be an issue. But in a country like Ireland, I'm sure Scotland's the same, England would be the same. The priority is to keep everything dry, because in dryness is strength. That's what you're going to see. In dryness is strength. But you know, these beams are okay, so I'm going to keep them. Stay tuned. I'm just going to go have a cup of tea now. Now that I've knocked down all of these bits, have a cup of tea. I'm going to come back and put all this insulation in. I'll film that too, so stay tuned. John Green, Green Ideas. Alright, back from my cup of tea. It's time to throw this insulation into the bottom. This room's not really intended for anyone to live in. It's not a living space. This insulation was mostly just sort of an afterthought because we had it. And we can insulate this part anyway. But there are a few gaps. I was wondering what to do with a couple of gaps and I was thinking, well, it's not that important really. We just throw all this stuff in, seal it up, and if we really want to worry about insulation, we can insulate on top of the floor, and we can also insulate underneath. Once this thing is closed, it's going to stay closed. But you can see how simple it is. I cut these bits of very, very hard foam. I did it with a circular saw, and honestly, I nearly died. It was one of the most dangerous things I've ever done because I did it inside the garage where there isn't very good air circulation, and I didn't really have a face mask on at the beginning. Actually, and even when I had the face mask on, I could feel the dust particles of this stuff landing on my face, and it's like little glass shards. I mean, it doesn't cut you, but it really feels like if you get the stuff in your lungs, you might be in trouble. So better not to use this kind of material. I would rather, I mean, I got this stuff for free, but I would rather use the bats, the fat bats. Rock wool is probably the best. Easy to cut, easy to form, easy to shape. But I'm not going to spend more money making this floor. At the moment I'm on the dole, and everything I'm doing with recycled materials, except I have to buy new screws and things like that. But stay watching. I'm going to recycle the hell out of this granary. Upcycle. Alright, putting insulation was a bit weird because the floorboards, I mean the beams, the floor beams aren't really parallel, and so some of them are a little wider than others. Some taper off a little or widen out on one side, but it's alright. I've still got some more of this stuff. I can stuff it in. It looks like I will be able to fill the floor in before I put the plastic on and put the floorboards down. So stay tuned. That's about to happen. Alright, I'll try to finish what I started. Just a little bit of insulation left to put in, and then I can cut away this black plastic so I see what I'm doing before I lay the next bit of floor. Alright guys, I might just wrap up this video because it's going to take a while to get this done. I'll make another video tomorrow of me putting the floorboards on. I've got to break up these few pieces left, sort of scatter them around, stuff them in all the holes, and then you'll see that this is done. Tomorrow, floorboards. My name's John Green. This is Green Ideas, coming from the West Coast, helping you fix your cottage. Thanks for watching. This is YouTube.